This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up, guys? Ricky Widmer here, along with, you can see above me, is Sean Anderson.
Hello.
To the, my left in the corner is Dave Oster.
Hey, buddy.
And then beside me for this one, I'm going to get over here, Dragon Ball Z style. You can't see his face, but John is joining us. How's it going, John?
Pretty good. Greetings, Late Station.
And this is the first primetime podcast quarantine style. We are all doing this Discord voice. Many of you reached out. The one I'm going to mention by name is JD, one of our new patrons. Said that, hey, is there any way we're going to get video for the next podcast? He's like, great content is all. But will we get video? And we do have video. You can now see each of us. This is how we'll do podcasts until we are allowed out of our houses. As Illinois, as of tonight, we have the stay-at-home being into effect. So these will be podcasts for the foreseeable future. Today we're starting off, we got 3 podcasts. The first one, Primetime Podcast, where we talk about everything college and draft. John wanted to talk about top shooters in the NBA draft. So that's what we're going to talk about here. Before we get into everything, though, first off, thank you to all of our patrons for your support. We can't do this without the support and love from you guys. Also, if you would like to be a patron, patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. And then also, if you're on YouTube watching this after the fact, we are live on Twitch right now. So you can watch us live. Usually Saturdays is when we do the super fans and fast breaks. Sometimes PTPs when patrons want to call in for that one. But twitch.tv/mostvaluablepodcast is where you call in for that. So here's how we're going to do this. We're going to go list to start the podcast. We're going to get very, what's the word I want to say? We're going to get all the logistics out first, and then we're going to have our conversation. So the way we'll do this is John will start with you, then we'll go up to Dave, then over to Sean, and end with me. Give your top 10 shooters. You can go 10 to 1 or 1 to 2 or 1 to 10, however you want to do it. John, we'll start with you. What are your top 10 shooters in the NBA draft right now?
I'm going to go 1 to 10. I think the consensus is that Aaron Nesmith out of Vanderbilt is the college shooter in the draft. Well, I don't know if he can declare it yet, but he's a prospect. Besides Gillen, I think he's going to be the best shooter. Followed by him, I have Marcus Howard. I have Sadiq Bey. I have Miles Powell. Vassell out of Florida State. Isaiah Joe. Landers Nolly. Jordan Nora. Tilly from Gonzaga. And Robert Wood III.
Interesting.
Dave, I think you're next.
Interesting. Okay. So for my list, I've got Aaron Nesmith. Again, I think he's going to be consensus 1 across all our boards. If not, you guys are crazy. At 2, I've got Peyton Pritchard. At 3, I have Marcus Howard. At 4, I've got Cassius Winston. At 5, I've got Halliburton. At 6, I've got Emmanuel Quickley. At 7, I've got Jameis Ramsey. At 8, I've got Desmond Bain. 9, Sadiq Bey. 10, Devin Vassell. Got an 11 in there. I'm just going to drop it. It is Jordan Wara as well.
Okay. I've got 2 honorable mentions also. I've technically got an 11 and 12. Sean, I love your reactions, though.
Yeah, Dave's got a shit list. I don't know if we're talking about this in the way. Shooters. Yeah, we're basing this based off shooting alone, right?
Yeah, it's up to you. 3-pointer or mid.
I think Aaron Nesmith might be a better prospect, but Marcus Howard's the best shooter in this draft. If we're looking at range, if we're looking at percentages, if we're looking at stroke, Marcus Howard is by far the best shooter in this draft. He's going to be a second-round pick, but by far Marcus Howard has been doing what Aaron Nesmith did this year, but for the past 3 years. Marcus Howard is a dead-eye sharpshooter. I'll take Marcus Howard number 1. Then number 2, I'll go Aaron Nesmith. 3, I'll go Peyton Pritchard. 4, I'll go Emmanuel Quickley. 5, I'll go Sadiq Bey. 6, I'll go Desmond Bain. 7, I'll go Cassius Winston. I'll give love to our guy. Then out of Gonzaga, I'll go with our friend Corey Kispert. and then I'll go with a little two off the map ones. This one from McNeese State. He's probably not going to declare, but he's a freshman out of the Southland. Drew Kuckhausen. Guys right now shooting 45.8% from three and 91.9 from the field. And then finally, a senior could possibly be a guy like who was our friend that was Dylan Windler. Could be a friend like that. 6'10", Tyler Hagendorn, 51% from three, 82.3% from the line, and he's a guy with a very quick stroke for a guy at 6'10".
And then to finish out my list, Sean, you're not going to like my list, only because at numero uno, I've got Aaron Neesmith. At number 2, I've got Sadiq Bey out of Villanova Hova. Then Marcus Howard at 3, Peyton Pritchard at number 4. 5, I've got our boy Cassius from Michigan State. 6, I've got, I think I'm the first one to say his name, Tyrese Halliburton.
No, Dave said him.
Okay. Then at 7, Jordan Wara. Number 8, Killian Tilly. 9, I have Devin Vassell. And then at 10, I've got Elijah Hughes out of Syracuse. However, the two guys, Obi Toppin, I didn't know if I wanted to put on this list. I decided not to. But the one guy I wanted to give an honorable mention to, because although he's a big and doesn't shoot a lot from beyond the arc, I absolutely love Cthulhu out of Minnesota, Daniel Oturu. Love his stroke, especially when he can shoot those three-pointers. I think that's something in his game that he is going to use but not rely on. But John, I want to start with you, and I actually want to hit you with a question that Sam also mentioned here in Twitch chat. Sam says, for the best college shooters, you doing mainly three-point percentage or true shooting percentage? In your mind, when you crafted this list, John, what was going through your head when you're thinking about top shooter in the draft?
I was thinking three-point shooter. And I was limited in mine to like the big board top 60. Plays Sean with like big board top 250.
Hell yeah.
So you were doing just three-pointer. Did you, Dave, Sean, did you guys have the same metric?
Yeah, Dave, I'll take it here. I kind of went with three-point shooting. I kind of went less of what they're doing right now and how I project them to be in the NBA. What's their role going to be when they hit the league? You know, are they going to be a guy that's going to be used all the time? And if they are, you know, are they going to be a guy that's going to knock down at a high percentage? Or are they going to be the specialist, you know, like Kyle Korver, JJ Redick? You know, Aaron Neesmith, I think that he's got a great ability, but I think if Marcus Howard hits all of his potential, I think that you're pretty much looking at maybe not as good as a passer of Trae Young, but he's shown that he is a great scorer, similar to Trae Young. So I think that if you have the ball in Marcus Howard's hands, he can create more, especially from beyond the arc, and just shooting in general. I think Marcus Howard's a more complete shooter in college right now, but also I think going into the NBA. Aaron Neesmith, I think that he's a very good player, very talented player. I think he's got a higher ceiling than Marcus Howard. Marcus Howard is extremely limited by his lack of ability to create for others and his lack of ability to play defense. And Aaron Neesmith isn't. Aaron Neesmith has a great body, great size, great potential. Where Marcus Howard, all that dude is going to do is be drafted to score and shoot. That is his goal. So I was looking for guys that could at least project to be guys that can be NBA level shooters. What are you going to do when you hit the league? That was what I was looking for.
Yeah, I can respect that. And I'm sorry, I did have to step out during your top 10 list. But honestly, did I drop? Can you guys hear me?
No, I can hear you. It's Sean. Your computer's kind of you're getting a little laggy.
Sweet.
Exactly the kind of
it was
so
your,
what part was not heard?
I heard all of your response.
It was a little crackly.
But your video is a little matrixy.
Well, what do we do?
You do nothing. You just roll with it, Sean. I don't know. I looked at the top 10 list. Like as far as shooting, I did take into free throw shooting. I did true shooting percentage and 3-point. So like it was a little bit of mix of everything for me. I still think it's interesting that you're so like. I mean, I had Marcus Howard at 3. I still think Neesmith knocking him down at like 50 plus beats out, you know, Marcus Howard hitting 10 a game. or attempting 10 a game, I should say, at 40-something%. Like, this is a big difference. It's a big difference.
And John, I'll bring you in. When obviously in the Aaron Nesmith, Marcus Howard debate, you sided with Nesmith also because you had it at number 1. What was your thought process to have Nesmith over Howard in your rankings?
Oh, the stats don't lie. He's shooting 10% better than Marcus Howard, and he has a slightly more average temp. So it's for me, the stats don't lie. It's no question Nesmith over Marcus Howard, but like comparing 1 versus 2 it's not that big of a deal. But I Peyton Pritchard, I didn't have him on my list at all. But you guys, all 3 guys had him on. I'm like, no, I'm not arguing against it. I'm like, okay,
you don't watch it. You know, I'm sorry, you're not the biggest Oregon fan out there.
I'm high on Pritchard. I'm high on Pritchard as a basketball player. I have him in my top 25 on my mock. But as far as like a consistent 3-point shooter, I just never, when I watched him, I never thought that his attempts would be high enough or his average would be high enough. I never looked into his stats as far as 3-point shooting.
Yeah,
I just like him as a basketball player.
Yeah, he's been up and down with his. He's been up and down with his shooting throughout his career, and you're right about the consistency. That is an issue that plagues Pritchard. But I think when he gets to the league, I think he's going to be less ball dominant, which will then allow him to focus on his shooting. And I think the stroke is absolutely there for Peyton.
Yeah, I mean, 51-41, 82 splits right now for the season that has unfortunately ended short. Like he has all the ability to create and score. I love his shot. I think the form, had some streaky shooters out there, but I mean, like that's what kind of makes this list fun. Like Devin Vassell is someone who, like, if you take out his 7 of 7 game, like he's actually like a 36% shooter, so it's like a 4% difference between him being, a 41 and a 36, almost 5%, I think actually. If that one game didn't happen where he went like absolutely fire, so like it's such a small sample size in college where you have to pay. Like, what are you going to choose to go with? What are you going to choose to ignore? The one guy I kind of really like is Emmanuel Quickley. He kind of played like second fiddle for the early part of the season for Kentucky. And all he's done is just get consistently better across the board as a player. And his averages are really good. I don't think he's, 100% going to be like a star in the NBA, but I think he'll be a quality bench player for, the next, 5 years at least. No problem. And he's just super efficient.
And that's one of the things I like about this list, John, that I was excited when Sean said you had suggested it, is we're giving love and saying names to guys that in mocks we usually never say anything about. Like in my list alone, the only one that I've had in the first round is Halliburton, Vassell, Nesmith, and then maybe Sadiq Bey, and then Jordan Wara early in the season. So like half my list is guys that we've never even said before. And the one thing I wanted to touch on Peyton Pritchard before we had moved on is, for me, maybe it's just a bit of, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of nostalgia. But like I think back to, it was 2 tourney games, one in 17, one in 18. Iona, he went 4 of 7, completely popped off. And then an overtime win in 18. He went 4 of 7 also against against Washington State in the Pac-12 tournament. So like those sit with me, like tournament shooters. It's like they sit in the head where it's like, are they really a good shooter overall? Yes, he is. But it's those moments kind of speak louder than everyone else. For me on my list, the guy that would fit your Kentucky style of player, I would have to say is maybe Elijah Hughes, because like he's lower on my list, but like Kentucky, everything about them was, if you watch them, it was Tyrese Maxey. That's who everyone's talking about. Or wow. I felt most of the talk went towards Tyrese Maxey, whereas with Syracuse, nobody really talked about them at all, because they're Syracuse and they haven't been that good this year. Sean, is there anyone on your list that you're like, you know what, it kind of fits into they're good at shooting, but no one's really talking about them?
Yeah, I think it kind of, and I don't know if Dave has mentioned it yet, because I can't hear Dave. But I think it's Desmond Bain. Him and I had Desmond Bain on our list, and I would think that Desmond Bain is probably one of those guys that will be drafted off of his shooting. He's got a nice profile, 6'6", 215, but he's a guy that throughout his 4 years at TCU, he has had an over 80% free throw percentage. We always talk consistently about how that it bodes well for how well and how repeatable your shot motions are. So being over 80%, that's a great look for him. And then also he's averaging 43, or he's shooting 43.3% from three, and that's on 4 attempts throughout his entire college career. He's a guy that throughout his college career has improved his shot, has made himself better, and he's also become a great defender as well. So I think one thing that people are sleeping on him is as a prospect, as a 3-and-D prospect, especially with the size that he has. I don't know if he's going to be the quickest player. He's not the most athletic, but so far over 4 years, he's shown that he's able to improve himself, and he's able to maintain the two abilities that will make him draftable in his three-point shooting and in his defense. So I think that he might be a guy that might end up going undrafted because he doesn't have the greatest measurables, especially athletic-wise. But if we're talking strictly 3-and-D, he is one of the best players that will come out of this draft. 3-and-D wise, I really think that he's going to be an important player when teams are looking for that type of player.
Yeah, he's definitely a high quality role player in this draft. A lot of people like to think of him as someone. I'm trying to think of another 4-year like me. I want to say Fred VanVleet, but there's such a size difference between them. It's not quite comparable of why VanVleet went, where undrafted versus. Wait, did he go undrafted? Now I feel like I'm gonna get shit.
I'll fact check you.
Yeah, either he went second round or undrafted, and I think Desmond Bain's in a similar situation. It's just you're not playing in the spotlight, you're not getting the love, but the game is there, the shot is there, definitely, and yeah, I think he'll be a good high level role player.
VanVleet
for a couple of years
did go undrafted.
I thought so. Yeah, I thought so.
Undrafted in 2016. Shout out to Rockford.
And it's the Raptors. If they have a good player, they probably win.
Yeah, he was in the Ben Simmons, Brandon Ingram, Jaylen Brown draft. But the one question I wanted to shoot over at John was this. Is a lot of the guys, like I said, half of my list is second round guys. I feel like most of our lists are second round guys as Sean's webcam enters the matrix.
Yes.
The thing I wanted to ask you guys, and we'll start with John, is are there any of the guys on your list that right now are second rounders, but could they sneak into the end of the first round, a la a Lakers at 29? Could the Lakers say, hey, we really value 3-point shooting and we want a shooter, that's why we're going to take this guy here? Could a team like Boston try to add shooters? I'm trying to think, like OKC, I don't know if they really need shooters. Maybe if they lose Danilo, they can add in a guy to fill that spot. But John, I want to start with you. Are there any lower first round teams that you think could take one of the second round shooters because they value that shooting more than anything else in the draft?
I have Jordan Nora in the first round, so be a response. But either Landers Nolly or Killian Tilly. I think obviously the knock on Killian Tilly is his injury history. But I think he's a very decent all-around basketball player. He doesn't have the athleticism, but he has high basketball IQ where he can pass for a big man. Also on defense, he gets in the right spots at the right time. Not necessarily like a leaper, or shot blocker, but or a strong defender, but he's in the right spot. If somebody wants to take take the risk of him being injured, they go ahead and
he's been a good player when he's healthy. That's obviously, but I don't know if he'll translate the next level.
Yeah, but as a role player, you have Tilly come off the bench. I think you're pretty happy as a big. And the guy I like, Landers Nolly, he doesn't have a higher percentage, but I think that Virginia Tech doesn't have a lot of players, especially in offense. They rely on him a lot, but he has really good size for most of these shooters on my list. As far as a wing who can defend, he's a pretty solid body, 6'7", 230. His wide shoulders. He can move his feet a little bit. Can be a little quicker, but he's quite athletic. He's a project. I think that he could be one of the best all-around players on my top 10 as far as shooters. And I think that his percentage would go up in the NBA because he won't be featured in offenses so much.
Well, and the news about Landers Nolly that came out this week that I'm reading the tweet from Jeff Goodman where he said, breaking VT leading scorer Landers Nolly will transfer, according to Stadium. The sophomore, he was averaging 15 and 6 boards a game, and sources have told Goodman that he wants to find a spot where he can play the wing. So Nolly isn't going to be a draft process. Like, I look at that as he's not going to be in this draft, but like next year we should be talking about him because there's the article that I'm looking at is from a Texas source. So the Longhorns could be looking at him. Memphis I've seen could be a landing spot for Nolly. It's going to be interesting. Like you bring up with VT and what they have. Well, depending on where he transfers to, that's going to play into how he develops next year as a junior.
Yeah, he was someone I really liked. Yeah, so he played out of position almost the entire year, and it's a shame because I liked him early in the season. I definitely had him tagged as like he's one of the wings I want to keep a close eye on for how he's going to develop, but I don't know. The transfer, is he going to have to sit out the year? Is that right?
I don't. Maybe.
Something.
Good question. Because college is like that. It depends on if he gets like a hardship waiver or something like that. But he might have to sit out a year, so we might not see him until 2 years from now. Depends.
That's a shame because he's already a sophomore.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Is there any other guys you guys want to hit before we wrap things up?
Yeah, I just want to throw out to answer your last question about late rounder guys. I think we consistently talk about this guy, just because he is a senior and just because we always are so impressed with him. Cassius Winston just seems like that guy. The Lakers need some shooting from the guard position. We talked about his fit last time in our mock draft 3.0. I really think that he's a guy that he can facilitate the ball, but also if you're going to put him on the floor with LeBron James, he could sit out behind the 3-point line and take shots from deep all day. I mean, he's a guy that has been consistent. He works on a shot, tough kid. He knows that, he isn't afraid to, put work into his game. And he seems very determined to reach his goal of the NBA and winning a title. Obviously, he wasn't able to do that with Michigan State with this time there. Could have happened this year, but, we all know the tournament was canceled. But I do think that Cassius Winston, if teams are going to value shooting and leadership, especially late in that draft for playoff teams, I think Cassius Winston's a guy that's going to sneak in there.
And
I agree. I love Cassius. I almost knocked my computer over. Yeah, I know.
He was so excited to talk about Cassius.
Well, that's the thing. I've been mocking.
I don't know what he said. I can't hear him.
Why
can't?
Fix this we'll fix. John, you can hear Dave, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So all three of us except for Sean can't hear Dave.
Can't hear Dave.
Nope, can't hear him. But I'm talking. I'm talking to you, Sean. Wait, you're over there.
He's other way.
Yeah,
that way to you.
That way. Okay. God, I hate that because I'm looking at my computer. The box they're laid out different.
He's to the other way. To your right.
I don't think we know how it's going to be on video on Twitter.
Yeah,
it's off.
I'm telling you how it's on mine, which will be how it's on Twitch.
Okay.
Sean's above me. Dave's to the right of Sean.
Anyway, Cassius Winston, he's heart of a champion. Unfortunately, was not able to get there. I agree with you, Sean. I think he's going to instantly translate to the next level and be able to be a backup point guard in the league for a long time. And he might get a chance to start on some other teams too.
Well, and before we end it, John, I'll throw it to you. Any final thoughts that you think we did not hit when it came to the top shooters in the 2020 NBA draft?
No, we hit them all. One question that I don't have the answer to, but throw out there is what big in this draft you think will develop to be like a corner 3-point shooter?
If Luke Garza came out, it would be him.
Who?
He said Luke
Garza from Iowa.
Oh yeah.
Dude, he's scoring like 26 and 9 a game and shooting well. He's added that 3.
You think he'll be drafted?
I don't know if he's going to come out. He feels like he'd come back for a senior year.
He's going to come back, especially after getting March ripped away. He's coming back.
Good enough to
Is Dave defending Luca Garza right now?
Yeah, Luke Garza. Yeah.
Absolutely not. That dude's not. That dude's Luke May 2.0. He's so slow. That guy's quicksand. The fuck out of here.
Hey, Luke.
NBA player.
Luke May played good in March, man. He had some good March moments.
I don't care if he plays good in March. He's not an NBA pro. Tyler Hansbrough played well in March, and Tyler Hansbrough was a bust. You gotta be fast to play in the NBA. Luke Garza would get beat.
He is a bench big who can shoot. Like Sean, he's efficient. He's got a 3-point shot. He can rebound. Like he does everything you need a bench big to do. You can't tell me he's not going to have some value at the NBA. I don't know why I'm arguing with Sean. I forgot that he can't hear me.
Yeah. So I'm glad you asked this question, John, because Dave and I were talking before we did the call, and we're like, do we put Obi Toppin in the top 10? Because like Obi Toppin, about 2.5 attempts per game, shooting almost 40% from the field. But the guy that I feel is going to be the big, that I don't know if he becomes a corner 3-point shooter or if he just becomes hey, you got to respect him on the 3-point shot, is Daniel Aturu. And the reason why I say that is I love his stroke from the outside. In the lone Big Ten tournament game that they had, I think Minnesota beat Northwestern. He hit a couple shots or had a couple shots where I'm like, that form is good. To where I almost feel like he could be Draymond Green, because I had to look at the numbers at how many attempts he's shooting per game. But I mean, I'm looking at it where he can almost be Draymond Green-esque, where it's like good percentage, shooting 3 attempts per game and shooting a good percentage from beyond the arc for a big.
Yeah, you throw out Draymond Green's name. I just feel like that's asking.
That's the high pie, like pie in the sky.
Starting to watch him because he's a player that I've been preaching about for a bit, but lower the name a little.
What did you say? You cut out a little bit, Dave.
I'm just saying lower the name.
Okay.
Not Draymond Green. Keep that out of here.
I mean, I was looking at I look at the big guys. I look pie in the sky.
Draymond Green's 6'6".
No. I'm saying like just focusing on the 3-point shooting aspect, like being a big who averages about 2 or 3 a game and shoots well.
I know what you're saying. I'm just, I don't.
With comparisons and Ricky, you gotta understand. I'm not saying, hey, I mentioned this player and they are all this player. I'm just picking little parts. But that's gonna do it. Go ahead, Sean.
Just be Paul Reed. I think Paul Reed could end up being a decent 3-point shooter. I think he's got a decent stroke. He's been iffy this year, and he's been inconsistent. Sort of like what we talked about with Peyton Pritchard. But I do think that if he's said, all right, here is your role, I think that he could be a guy. And I don't know if Dave said him, but Jaden McDaniels could also be turning out to be one of the better 3-point shooting bigs.
Dave did not mention McDaniels.
I didn't mention him. I know he has it in him, but he's also like a fuck up. I hope the best for him. I really do. He has such high upside.
I thought what Dave said was great.
Yeah, Dave called him a fuck up, Sean.
Well,
that's great.
I love him, but like he just basketball IQ is in serious question at times.
Remember when Dave put the fuck up at 11 in the last mock draft?
Yeah, dude. I can't argue with Sean like this.
And he turned out to be the best player in the draft.
He absolutely could be. Absolutely could be. He has such incredible upside.
Yeah, it's just all upside.
He needs to learn how to play basketball around a team when his dad's not his coach. Like that's the biggest thing. He needs to mature as a person, and then his game can continue to grow. But yes, he can be a good shooter from the outside. If he plays in position, he can be even better. Like we haven't seen the best out of him yet, but I think he's something special.
And that's going to do it for John. You got one more retort?
No, I'm saying Dave's cleaned up pretty good.
Oh, yeah, Dave. Did you shave recently, Dave? Because of the quarantine?
yesterday.
Okay.
No, cleaning up the fuck up comment.
Oh, okay. Okay. I thought John was saying that Dave looks good cleaned up. And I'm like, wait, Dave's usually cleaned up.
Y'all got your quarantine beards going. I can't compete. So.
But that is going to do it for the Primetime Podcast segment here. Thank you, John, for the great topic. If you want to be like John and be on a podcast, patreon.com/Most Val Podcast, $10 tier. The gold members get to come on the podcast, but the silver members, like Tim is, he'll be super fans. We're talking about one of his topics. If you don't want to be on a podcast but want to submit a topic, the silver membership could be for you. But we also have a bronze membership that's as low as $1. But if you guys want to check that out, also if you're on Twitch, check out our YouTube. If you're on YouTube, check out our Twitch. Links on YouTube are down below in the description. But for John over here, for Dave up there, and then Sean, audio listeners are like, what's Ricky doing? But Sean up above me, have a good day, everybody.